7th death anniversary of Lasantha Wickrematunge, the founder editor of the Sunday Leader newspaper and respected and much loved figure here at News First too. You were saying about President Sirisena's decision to come forward. Surely he must have been as frightened as hell.
I'm sure everyone was frightened at that time because it was not an easy decision to make, and I know how difficult it was, because you have to think about your family, and there are lots of issues that you have to consider, but still weighing all those, and then you realize that something more, courage is sometimes not about absence of fear. It is about knowing that something else is more important than what you personally feel. So I feel that it was the need of the hour that they felt, as President Sirisena felt at the time, as well as that was a requirement of many people who love democracy, who wanted that freedom and who did not want to see a dictatorship growing in a country that has a long way to go, and a country that can have a very bright future. So considering all that, and obviously the pressure from a lot of party members, including senior members, and I'm sure a lot of others as well, compelled President Sirisena and the support extended by the opposition at the time, and where everyone decided to back President Sirisena's candidacy, given the support that he received and all that. I'm sure he felt that, okay, this is the time to make that decision regardless of the risks that he would have to face.
And talk about wastage, we are now treated almost, or I think that's the right word, treated to the information that President Sirisena's expenditure at President's house or at the presidency is only around 10% or 10 or 15% of what President Rajapaksa had spent, and that's just the starters. Do you think things like that actually sink in to the public mind?
Well, yes, it would, because given President Sirisena's simplicity in many ways, I'm sure the public understands that fact. But what is important for us is to remember that we are still here at the one year mark. We have several years more to go. Everybody who takes over the first few years, they do try to honor their pledges, and they do try to do what is perceived to be right by the country and its people. What is important is to make sure that it continues. That is what is important. So yes, President Sirisena's simplicity, simple lifestyle, and his efforts taken to minimize wastage of public funds is commendable. But how commendable it would be should be discussed at the end of his term. Because we are still at the beginning. We need to see it continuing and improving in the years to come. That's where the difference would be felt.
He seems to be very much a hands-off operator, in the sense that he has handed much of the running of the country to his political partner, Ranil Wickrematunge, and with a mixed cabinet and so on. How well do you think that is from your perspective as the editor-in-chief of this newspaper that people love to read? How do you think that's working out?
Well, it is a new concept, I should say. It is a new concept, and of course I have seen many hiccups as well, but given that it is a new concept, and I think if it is adapted properly, it would be one of the best scenarios a country could have. And such a mixed system is actually a way of preventing a lot of wastage and corruption, because they look at each other and they try to keep each other on their toes. Yeah. So it is a good concept if it is adapted properly. And of course, as I said again, it is a new concept, so yes, there are some ups and downs, but I'm sure they can be worked out. And so far it seems as if it's working out, but it's not at the rate and the level that the public would have expected it, because it's a little slow in coming out when it comes to action. But then again, they are still working things out, and it seems like, looking at the budget, it seems like they are moving forward. So maybe give a little more time and see how it goes.
So we can see this flicker of an LED light at the end of this long dark tunnel.
It seems like there is a light at the end of the tunnel, but my only hope is that it's not an oncoming train.
We must be wary of that.
Yes.
But what is the development of the highways, the roads network, the power sector, the general infrastructure development? How much does that count in favor of the Mahinda Rajapaksa presidency?
Yes, when it came to infrastructure development, there were lots of visible developments that took place during the former Rajapaksa regime. There's no doubt about it. But the question is whether having a highway alone was the answer, and whether building highways and convention centers and ports and airports and everything in an area that is not usually used by many people, spending billions of rupees of public funds, was a good idea. I mean, that needs to be considered. And also, sometimes when you decide to launch a project using foreign funding, foreign loans and foreign funding, you have to decide whether the country can afford it. Because at the end of the day, you're writing a check on behalf of the country. It's the people's money that you are using. So whether you can freely be very extravagant when it comes to spending public funds should have been thought of. Because even today, we are still a country massively in debt due to some of those decisions that were made. And in some instances, some of the projects have been white elephants as well. So sometimes visible development is good, but more than that, there needs to be proper ground development. And the economy has to be on a firm footing. We need to have a state coffer that actually has money. So I think first we need to consider that aspect. And yes, of course, we need that infrastructure development in order to increase our growth levels. But for that to happen, we have to have other indicators moving on an upward scale as well. So during the former regime, I don't think that was considered that well. There were many arguments and debates about statistics that were inflated by certain authorities. And so therefore, certain decisions taken to launch certain projects resulted in a large number of public funds just flowing out of the country without a proper revenue generation method. So as a result, the state coffers were drying up very fast. That was a bad indication where the country's economy is concerned. There's so much that you can hold on to a country's economic development with inflated records. At some point, the bubble would burst.
And I haven't forgotten about this, but I saved it as a separate question to discuss with you. What about the war victory, the victory over terror? What about that then? What sort of an achievement do we view that as?
Ending the 30-year-old war was definitely an achievement for the former regime. That's why sometimes I say that the former regime was one of the luckiest governments I think the country has seen. They had a golden opportunity after ending the war to steer the country on the right direction. But instead we saw the country taking a very dictatorial line, and that was bad. After ending the war alone is not the answer. It is an answer to a huge question, no doubt about it. But still there was more to be done. Ending the war did not end that gap we have caused between a lot of people in the country. Reconciliation plays a huge role. Accountability plays a huge role. The issues that we are talking now played a huge role post-war. But none of those were properly addressed. Because winning the war alone would not address all the issues the country was facing during the period of the war. Reconciliation is not about appointing a committee and asking for a report and forgetting about the report and not implementing the recommendations. Reconciliation does not mean sending a Sinhala public servant fluent in Tamil to the north and getting someone from the north to Colombo and giving them a job here. Reconciliation does not mean that. It's more than that. And that did not happen.
And as we come to the close, in your view, is there, even today, a cover-up with regard to the investigation on Lasantha's murder?
Well, a cover-up I cannot say, because the investigation is progressing at the moment. I think that is something we will have to wait and see, because the investigation, the fresh probe into Lasantha's murder was launched by the CID a couple of months back. And so far it is an ongoing process. So, and they have managed to uncover a lot of details related to the murder. And so whether there would be a cover-up, we would have to wait and see. But I sincerely hope there wouldn't be. And I have a feeling that this time around we might actually resolve the case.
Mandane Ismail Abe Wickrematunge, thank you very much for being on Newsline this morning. And as we remember Lasantha's unlawful killing and the investigation ongoing, we are also inspired perhaps by the fact that today is the first anniversary of President Maithripala Sirisena's presidency, and so there is some hope. But it probably pays to remember that in this world of complexities, simple things become realities. Thank you for watching Newsline. Take care and have a great day. God bless.
News First, Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali.